Hello and welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Reading Methods. So first I wanted to say thank you for all of your discussion board postings as you were introducing yourself. And hopefully I had a chance to respond to each person personally because I think that's really important so that you know that I am invested in your success in this program and that I want you to know that I know you personally, not just as a student, but also as a person, and I really enjoyed the interaction you had with each other. I always think it's amazing that even through Blackboard, without seeing each other face to face, we can still find commonalities with each other, and that's really what starts to build the community. So thank you for taking the time to do the introduction discussion boards, and so really the remaining discussion boards are going to follow the same format. Unless you see something in the announcement that says that you don't have to respond to at least 2 of your classmates, you do always need to respond to at least 2 of your classmates. So last week we just kind of got started, introduction to literacy, and so this week you're going to be moving to the next step, which involves theories. And I know that is a word most of us don't like because theories normally are very dry. But it is important to understand kind of the foundational theories behind literacy to see where we came from, where we are now, and really as you read through chapter 2, you're going to start to notice that it's very much a cyclical process. So you'll see that one instructional type of technique may have been used years ago and then went away, and maybe now it's starting to come back. But this is going to really start to be where you can begin building your philosophy of education. And so I'm going to go more into detail about the philosophy in just a minute. But just as we finish up what you need to do for this week, you need to read chapter 2. Review the PowerPoint for it. And again, this is going to be a really foundational chapter that I would definitely recommend highlighting or taking some notes as you go, because this is where you're going to begin to form what you believe about how children learn to read and write. And so the discussion board for this week is kind of a reflection for you. So I'm really going to be asking you to think back to when you remember maybe learning to read and write, or just some of your earliest memories of reading and writing instruction, whether it was at home, whether it was in a school setting. But I want you to tell us about what you remember, and then I want you to use the information from the chapter to tell us, what theory or what perspective do you think that that instruction was using? And as we know, we are crossing several generations in this course, so we're probably going to find a really large discrepancy in how many of us learn to read and write. I won't tell you how old I am, but I will tell you that I was definitely part of the skill and drill, which isn't the technical term, but when you read through the chapter, you'll know exactly which one I'm talking about, where we did lots of worksheets, we did lots of flashcards, a lot of rote memorization. I remember having, even in kindergarten, we were learning the letters of the alphabet, and each one of them had something associated with them, like Mr. M was Mighty M, and I remember that because that's what my first name starts with. So those are the kinds of things that I'm hoping are going to trigger some memories for you. There is absolutely no right or wrong answer to this discussion board. It's just a really good chance for us to start seeing how we have all learned differently over the course of our schooling years. So again, make sure you respond to the prompt, and then make sure you respond to at least 2 of your classmates. So the other thing that I want to mention is the philosophy of education. And so I know several of you have asked some questions about it. So I'm going to do my best to kind of dispel some of the anxiety and just kind of explain how I think it might be best for you to set everything up. So the reason that I make the philosophy available in week 1 is because it's something that you should really be working on through the entire time you're in this course. It's considered your final exam, so it's not going to be due until the last week of the course. However, you are going to be taking information from everything in this course in order to build your philosophy. So when you look at the assignment instructions, and if we go into Blackboard and we go into the assignment, you'll see that the philosophy is the first thing. And so there's a couple of examples here for you. Here's a detailed PowerPoint I did for you. But these 4 questions are ones that you have to address. How do you believe children learn to read and write? Do you believe that they're different processes, or are they part of one process, and why? What are some of the techniques that you know you will use in the classroom, and why are you going to use those? How will you approach learners with different levels of experience and skills, including ELLs, which is English language learners? And what will be the role of adult and child interactions in your classroom, and why? So those 4 questions have to be answered in your philosophy. And my suggestion to you is to make each of these a heading in your paper. So one of your headings can be belief on how children learn to read and write, and techniques in the classroom, approaching learners with different levels of experience, the role of adult-child interactions. But if you set them up as headings, then it's a lot easier for me to find the information. Now, here are some additional ones that you might want to include. You do not have to include them, but some of these may be something that you really feel strongly about. The role of play, how you're going to approach book reading, how will you choose books, what will be the role of direct instruction, and if there's anything else regarding literacy that you want to include, that's absolutely fine. But what I would suggest doing is making an outline maybe of these 4 questions, and then if there's any of these that you want to include, if there's anything else. And then each week you can kind of add to your outline as you're finding information that supports what you believe. Remember, a philosophy is what you believe. And while I do want to see you start sentences with "I believe that children learn to read and write by blank, blank, blank," you have to be able to support that with academic resources. And that's what your textbook and all of the additional resources that I'm giving to you I'm hoping that's going to provide for you. So anytime that you are using information from another resource, you have to cite it. And that's why I say if you work on it as you go, then you don't get to the last week and you feel like you're having to go back through everything to try and find what you believe about each of these things, and then finding the information to support it and defend it. So again, this is not meant to be something that's really overwhelming. This is your opportunity to really think through what you believe about literacy. I can guarantee that most employers, when you go for an interview, are going to ask you something regarding literacy. And so it's really important to be able to defend what you believe. And that's what this philosophy is hopefully going to help you be able to do. So again, use the resources that are there. Each week you're going to find not only the PowerPoint for the particular chapter or chapters that you're reading, but you're also going to find some extra resources. You do not have to read all of them or view all of them, but if you find something that really kind of interests you, then I would certainly take the time to at least bookmark it, so maybe you can go back to it when you have some time. But this is something that's going to evolve over the semester. There may be some weeks where you add a lot to your outline because there's just lots that apply to what you want to put in your philosophy. But there may be a week or two where there wasn't really anything that we went over that you felt like went in your philosophy, and that's fine. But I will tell you that most philosophy papers range anywhere from about 4 to 7 pages. So if your philosophy is only a page or 2, then it's not detailed enough. And that's why I just suggest working on it as you go. So I just kind of wanted to take some time to really delve into the particulars of the philosophy so that you understand how to work through it step by step and what the purpose of it is. So I think that takes care of week 2. Next week, we're going to be getting into the really beginning foundations of literacy, where we're looking at oral language and communication. So again, you're going to be continuing to work on your philosophy. This week, you're looking at chapter 2. And then next week, I am going to be introducing the observation assignment, which you will be happy to know does not require you to actually go into a classroom unless you want to. But you don't have to have a placement. You don't have to contact places unless you want to go into a classroom to observe it. So just kind of a heads up for what's coming next week. So keep up the good work. Enjoy reading about the different theoretical perspectives pertaining to literacy, and I will see you in week 3.